G'day viewers, welcome along to the Trainz Simulator World Tour on Xbox tutorial. Now this one's quite a long one, but I've broken it down into chapters for you, and they've all been recorded as chapters as well, and I'll put it together in a few moments. Basically, I'm going to take you through a few things. If I have a look at my list, we'll look at the sessions, we'll look at the modes and menus and the controller mappings and things like that, and here comes our Steam train. We'll look to attaching to trains, how to get around, how to change points, saving and resuming, running the sessions, sandbox mode, driving diesels, driving steam engines, and you know what else we should probably do? Oh yes, coupling and uncoupling, and that's interesting. Oh, yes, coupling and uncoupling. We'll get into all of that. We should probably drive a session as well, but you can just watch one of mine out of videos for that, so we won't run on a session. Yeah, that's about it, I think. So, let's get into it. First up, we're going to actually run the game. And why am I doing this? Because you all know how to start a game on the Xbox, right? Well, you probably do anyway. But it goes through and let's see where you end up, because I've been playing for a while, so I'm expecting it will jump back into the session that I'm playing on Orbost, and I want to show you how to look around the menu and change your sessions and change into sandbox mode if you want to. So let's go, and we'll choose play, and off we go. So right now it's in the credit screen. This is exactly where I left it. And we were sitting in this scenario here that's running along in Orbost in Australia. It's heading out of Orbost towards its destination. Alrighty, now let's have a look at our menus. So the first one is the radial menu, which lets you do things in the game, like turning on the lights and turning them off. So lights are on at the moment, and I can choose A and turn them off. So if we were to exit out of this menu and swing around to the front of the train, we can see that our lights are indeed off. And if I go back into this menu, which is the button to the right of the controller, or the right of the Xbox symbol, and I go back in there and turn my lights on, and then exit out there, you can see the train lights are on. Now there's various things available in there. You can turn a bell on if you've got one. You can decouple, we'll do a session on that. There's the controller guides, which are kind of important. After you select controls, the first screen you come into is driving controls. The first button we'll talk about is the utility menu. That's the one you use to get in here, and that's the button with 3 lines on it to the right and down from the Xbox controller. This toggles options like sanding, lights, bells, and decouple, couple mode, and it also can toggle the detailed stats for the simulation if you want those. The next button over from that is the system menu, which is the button with 2 overlaid rectangles, and that accesses the overlay for saving, loading, restarting, and selecting a different session. If you press the right-hand stick, it will play the horn, or whistle, depending on the train. So diesels, it's generally a horn, although sometimes a whistle, because some of them have a whistle, like the BR Class 08. And steam engines, it'll blow the whistle. The right bumper and right trigger, I'm not going to talk about them much now because I cover them much better in the driving controls, and I don't want to just confuse you or me. So all I'll say is that it decreases the selected driving control with the right bumper, and the right trigger increases the selected driving control. We'll get more into that later on. Y and X actually choose your driving controls. So Y is all about the brakes, X is all about the throttle or reverser. With the brakes, it cycles between the train brake, the independent brake, and the dynamic brake. If the locomotive doesn't have dynamic brakes, if it's a diesel, it still shows up here, and it does kind of work. If you're in a steam engine, you'll only get the train brake and the independent brake, so selection by the Y key. The X key cycles between the throttle and the reverser. If you're in a steam engine, it's the regulator, the cutoff, which is also known as the reverser, and the coal and water firing controls. If you hold Y down, it will apply the emergency train brakes. I've done that a few times by accident. Yep. If you press and hold the X key, it will release all brakes, engage forward traction, and switch to throttle mode. Now, if you've actually put the train into reverse, it will stay there. And with a steam engine, the cutoff stays in the position that you had it in. All right, let's go over to the next one. This is the world and camera controls. Let's start with the right stick, which is for walking and rotating the camera, depending on what you're doing. Let's go off to the left button now, left bumper rather, which attaches or detaches the camera. So when you're near a train, it will attach to it, and it'll attach to a locomotive if you're near a locomotive, or it'll attach to a car in the train if you're near a car in the train. And then you can move up and down the train with the left stick. So when you're not near a train, it'll attach to the most recent one, which is kind of handy because if you jump off the train and use the 3D pointer to rove around the world and look at things, you can just whack the button and you will scoot back to your train. The left stick moves the camera. So if you're in roaming camera mode, it directly moves the camera around in the world. That's the 3D pointer. If it's the chase camera, it moves backwards and forwards along the current train. So it moves down the cars or moves up the cars towards the locomotive. If you press down the left stick, it toggles between regular and fast movement. Now, I didn't actually know that, so I'm going to give that a try because fast movement's annoying. The D-pad control, up and down, zooms in and out. If you're in interior camera mode, it decreases and increases the field of view in the cab. If you keep zooming out in the cab, it will take you out of the cab, and if you keep zooming out, it will take you up into the sky until you've got a satellite view of all of the baseboards in the map. In the other camera modes, it will zoom in. So if you're up in the sky, it will zoom back down to the train, and it will zoom into the cab. So if you're holding it down, it transitions into or out of walk camera mode or internal camera mode. More on that when we do it later. Left and right on the D-pad manipulate objects. So if you're in decouple mode, when you are focused on a vehicle and you are at 90 degrees or perpendicular to that vehicle, and all that means is like a T, it will toggle the nearest coupler in a specified direction. So if you press left, it will open or close depending on its current state, the coupler on the left side of the carriage you're looking at, or locomotive. And if you press the right one, it will open or close the coupler depending on the current state of the one on the right-hand side of the carriage or locomotive that you're looking at. When you're in roaming camera mode, it will manipulate the junction that is within 20 meters of you. So it'll either switch the points left or right. If you are too close to it, it will be locked and you won't be able to do that. If you're attached to a train, so if your train's too close to it, or any train's too close to it really, if you're attached to the train, it will manipulate the junction in front of the train. And I think there's about a 50-meter limit on that one. And again, if you're too close to it, it will lock, and it only manipulates the next one. So if you've got a couple you need to do, you're probably better off copping out in the world camera and doing that. And I'll show you that in the setting a path tutorial. If you're in the map view, so you've gone all the way up into the sky, it cycles between the different trains. So you can select which train you want to look at and then zoom all the way back down again and go and look at that train. It's particularly useful in sandbox mode because in sandbox mode you can run lots of trains all at once, and that's how you get to them and how you find them. All right, let's pop out of the controller mode and let's go into the system menu. So that's the one with the two little oblong boxes to the left of the Xbox controller. So let's just press that one. You can see we've got quick save where we can save the current session. There is only one save slot, so use it wisely. And there are auto saves. So when you finish a session, it will automatically save it. And this is where you reappear from when you start the game from scratch. So you notice that was a save point that I had that we launched right into. You can reload from that save point. So if you select that, it will go back to where you last saved or where it last saved, because it does save progressively during sessions. You can restart the current session to go right back at the start if you want to. Maybe you figure you can do it better this time, so you might want to do it again. Why not? The next one is change session, and it's worth exploring. So let's hop into there for a moment. And this is where you change the different sessions that you've got. So each of these things is a guided adventure, if you like, in what to do. So number one is on coal country, and it's called training day. Number 2 is training day continues, and you use your up and down D-pad to navigate these. That's also in coal country. Number 3 is also in coal country, shunting around the yard. This is the first time you get practice with coupling and uncoupling and things like that. Then you get the first part of a Denver steam run, which starts in coal country and wanders along until you get to a tunnel, and then it seamlessly switches to Denver steam run, and you'll be in the other route. All right, and then we've got yard work at Denver. We've got then we switch to the UK and we do an HSE passenger run from Edinburgh Waverley to Dundee, I think, from memory. And then you on the East Coast Main Line. And then you do a day at the docks where you're shunting around. I think this is at Inverkeithing from memory. And then you do an Evening Star rail tour where you wander through the Puntisland docks, across the iconic Forth Bridge and onward to Edinburgh. It's in the opposite direction as the other one. Now you get deported and you'll get transported to Australia. Good on you, convict. Where you start your outback adventure. And in the mighty Victorian Railways T-Class. When I say mighty, I say weakling. But anyway, there you go. And then you move on. There's another run after that. Then you get the steam engine, the K190 green K-Class steam engine on the Orbost route again. And then you come into your sandboxes. So there's a sandbox for coal country, sandbox west from Denver, sandbox for East Coast Main Line, and sandbox for Bairnsdale to Orbost. Now you notice this one's locked. They unlock as you progress through. So when you finish all of the sessions for that, you can go and muck around in the sandbox. And I'll do a discussion about sandboxes in this tutorial. That's about it for the menus for now. So let's get on with it. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about saving the game and reloading from a save. So I've been playing this session for about an hour now. I've had about enough of it for the time that I have had available. So what happens if I want to just leave? Do I lose the hour? No. The answer is you can save. So you use the button here on the controller. It's the one with the two little squares overlaid. And that will bring up a menu and you can do a quick save. So you can use the up and down D-pad to select which thing you're doing in this menu, and you can just press A to select quick save, and it has now saved it. Now when I come back into the game, it will be exactly where I am now. It'll just load it up by itself. But if you wanted to go and do something else, or you wanted to get out of the game or whatever, you can. And then you can reload from save. Now this is also handy if you're doing something quite difficult. So the scenario I played just before this one actually is quite hard. So I was doing saves periodically in case I mucked it up, and I did a couple of times. So they were saving me because I could just reload from where I was right before I messed it up. So it will load up the route just like it normally does if you're starting out, and it will work out where we are and what's going on and what's moving and what's not, and it will set everything up for us. Save in this game is quite reliable. I haven't had any challenges with it at all. It's worked every time for me. Now, the only caveat, there we are, we're right back exactly where we were when we left our little Class 8 over here. So the only caveat I would give you is that I believe there is only one save slot, so you can only have one save in there at a time, because you notice there's nothing that lets you choose which save slot to use. So we can jump out of this session and change into a different session. And let's just jump into Shut the Yard, number 3, because that doesn't talk very much. And we'll let that load up. And then just as an experiment, we'll go and restore from our save. And hopefully we'll be back in the Class 8. We'll know in just a moment.
To see you're here bright and early. It's gonna
All right, so let's hit the button before he talks too much and say reload from save. Let's see what happens. I reckon we'll be back in the Class 8 through that single save slot. So here we go. Watching the trees go by. It's a common pastime on the Heritage Railway, actually, because you watch ahead and you do your checks around the cab and then you just listen. because listening and feeling actually tells you more about what you need to know. And there we are, back at our single save slots, the Class 08. That experiment is a success. The next thing we're going to talk about in navigation, you probably remember if you hit the left bumper, you come out of the train that you're attached to, and you can move around your world cursor. But there's an exception to that, so let me just reattach to that train with the left bumper, and I'm going to zoom into the cab. If I left bumper now, I'm actually not in the world cursor mode, I'm in walk mode, and I can walk around the world. I'm clearly very, very short because the grass and the bushes are taller than me. But you can see you can wander around to your heart's content. There are no invisible walls, there are no barriers, you are completely free to walk wherever you want. If you feel like walking through a building, I don't think anything will actually stop you. So let's pretend this door's real and that we can walk through. Let's see what's inside. And pretty much as I expected, nothing. And we will walk out through the wall on the other side, and we're out here near some carriages. So this is walk mode, and you are very, very small. Now, in this mode, I'm pretty sure it's a hangover from the old days where Trainz was a model railway simulator. In fact, you can still do that with Trainz. So I think that's why you're so small. It's just you're pretending you're in a big world. So we'll just pop back here and come back close to our locomotive so we can reattach to it. Oh, that should be close enough. Let's left bumper and we are back on the loco. Yep, we can see that. I can make the horn blow, so yes, I am attached to the locomotive. So we've looked at one way of changing the points, which if you recall, you hop out of the locomotive with the right bumper, and then you can come up to a set of points and you can put your cursor near them and you can cycle them using the left and right buttons on the D-pad. You can cycle through the different points. So left or right, depending on which way you want to go, basically. Now, if I go back to my train, I'm just going to press the left bumper and go back there again. If we start this thing driving, so we're in reverse, let's give it some stick, release the brakes, and give it a bit of throttle. It's uphill here, so we'll give it 2. It'll still take a little while to move. In the direction that you're facing, you can actually use the left and right D-pad in the same way for the next set of points that you're going to come across in the direction that you are traveling. Alright, so that replies whether you're out here or even if you've hopped in the cab. So you can see I'm in the cab here. I zoomed in till I got here. I can still use the left and right bumpers. Sorry, left and right D-pad buttons, I apologise, to cycle through the different points. Now this works quite well in most circumstances, but let's just throttle back and apply some brakes, and we'll go for a little fly. And I'll have to go outside first, and I'll detach from my locomotive with the left bumper after zooming out to go outside. Now there's circumstances where that can get quite tricky if you're trying to control them from inside the train, and that's where there's several points close together or a couple of points close together. So if you were trying to travel here from left to right, you can see there's 2 sets of points and they're almost overlapping, and by the time you've gotten to the first set and you've gotten onto those so that that selector's not going to select that set anymore, it's going to move on to select the next set, you're so close to the next set that you've probably locked them, because the game will only let you change points if there's no rolling stock on top of them, and its definition of on top is close to. So what do you do in that case? Well, you can put your cursor on them and you can change your points however you like. So it's changing that one, and if I come up to this one, it will change this one. See, even with my cursor, you notice my cursor was actually... So if my cursor's on top of these points, it's changing these ones, but I don't have to go very far, and it's going to change those ones. So Yeah, my cursor's still on those points, but it knows I want the next ones because I'm beyond the threshold for these points. So it might take a little bit of mucking around here and there to get that right, but it's easy enough once you get used to it. This time around we're going to set points just like we did before, but this time I'm going to work out setting a path because you can do this in advance so that you're not in a rush. So I'm going to bring my cursor up to these points, and these ones I want to make them go to the left so you can see the paths going that way. Yeah, they already were, but I cycled them anyway. These ones are already going left, so they're fine. And I want to go not down the hill, but I want to go straight ahead here. So we're going to go change that one to go straight. And one thing to watch in trains that you've got to be a little bit careful of is if you run over a set of points that's set against you. So let's say I set that one that way, and then I traveled through like I am with my cursor through these points, it will actually derail my train. So you've got to be a little bit careful about that. So you want to set them correctly for the path. Don't just trail through them. That's actually like that in real life for locked points. So here we are. I have now set a path all the way through. And let's say I want to go back to the right-hand line here. So, and we'll remember to come up here and we'll check these ones because remember you derail if you trail through a set of points that's the wrong way. Points are set in the direction you're facing. So to travel on the left path here, it's still left, and travel on the right path, it's still right. That seems a little bit counterintuitive when you're looking at the points and thinking about where you're coming from, but it is the correct way to do it. All right, so that is setting a path. So that lets you do what you need to do and just travel along through the world. In this chapter of the tutorial, we're going to learn about handling a diesel train and driving it and the controls for our diesel train. We will be using the CSX locomotive 6122 and our train of coal gondolas for this particular process. You'll notice in the HUD on the right, in the vertical stack, there are 5 things: reverser, throttle, dynamic brake, loco brake, and train brake. X cycles between reverser and throttle. We will come back to that. Y cycles between train brake, loco brake, and dynamic brake. So we'll go back to the reverser now, and you can, once you've chosen it, you can use the right trigger to increase or go to forwards, and the left bumper to decrease or go to reverse. That applies to all of these. So right trigger increases whatever it's setting, and the right bumper, decreases whatever it's setting. All right, so let's now head down to the train brake. There's 3 brakes on a train, basically. The train brake is an air brake. It operates on the locomotives and all of the carriages. It takes a little while. It's a little bit slow to apply and release. Apply or application or service is the terminology used for when you're increasing the braking or retarding action of the brake, and releasing or running is the terminology used when you are decreasing the application or the retardation of the brake. A loco brake only operates on the locomotive, so I applied it on this case. It would only come on 6122. Now, some American locomotives, when you're applying the independent, will also apply it on any connected locomotive, but they don't all do that. In this game, it's only the front one, I believe. The next brake is called the dynamic brake, and it's not really a brake. It's actually a power generation system, because what it does is it connects up the traction motors that are driving the wheels of the train, and it takes the electricity from those, so they become generators essentially, and it takes that electricity and it burns it off on resistors in the form of heat. So it provides a retarding action on your train. In real life, the dynamic brakes work well between about 3 mile an hour and about 20 to 25 mile an hour, depending on the train model. In this game, they work quite well no matter what speed you're doing. I can actually apply the dynamic brakes now, for example, and they will provide a retarding action to the train, even though it's not moving, therefore couldn't possibly work. But that's okay. We'll take those off. Now, I know I want to start moving, so I'm going to use the shortcut for that, which is press and hold the X. It will release all brakes. and put you into throttle, so it highlights the throttle, and I've hit notch 1 using the right trigger, and off we go. So we're in sandbox, which means we have to look after ourselves, so let's just go and set some points. So we want those ones to be to the right. Oops, you've got to move gently in this game. Those are to the right, and these ones should be as well. Lovely. Now the next ones I'm actually going to set from the train itself. So let's go back to the train. We can zoom in if we want to and go inside the locomotive. Lots of these controls actually animate, so when I notch up, if you watch the throttle lever, which is the middle one of the stack of 3 on the right hand side there, you can see it goes, it pops up to notch 2. Now we're only allowed to go to about 10 mile an hour just around the corner, so I'll just pop that back and I'll actually go back to idle for now. That red handle there is the train brake, so if I cycle down to the train brake and apply it, you'll see it move. And the one below it is the independent brake, or loco brake, or straight brake as it's often called. If I apply that one, you'll see that one move. That one would normally have another position called bail off, but it's not used in the game. Alright, as we cruise through here, once we get round to the through these points, I will set the next ones, because what you can probably see on the little chart down the bottom of the screen there is the next signal is red. Well, it's actually not red, it's kind of yellow, but we want to go to the right anyway. So now that we're through these points, I'm going to use the right D-pad to set those next set of points to the right. And we won't be able to do this until we actually get through these points that are in front of us, and we're slowing down rather a lot, so let's just go back to the throttle position. Now, the levers in the cabs, you can't actually activate them as you can in some games. That is a future feature that is planned to come to the Xbox. So at the moment you can still see a signal in front of us that's red, and it's going to stay that way until I can get to the next set of points. So the next set I have already set to the right, so I need to set the ones after that also to the right, even though that's a weird concept. Those excessive curve speed warnings are because the back of my train's going through all those points behind us, and we're in sandbox mode, so I'm ignoring it. In the normal driving session modes of the game, you need to pay attention to things like that and be gentle with your train, because if you're not, you will derail basically, and you'll lose points. So I'm just ignoring that red signal because I don't care, because we're in sandbox, but I will set the next points. And we'll set them off. So they are in the facing direction, they are now set to the right, or what's called the reverse position, interestingly, because straight is the normal position and diverge is reverse. Now that's normally the case, not always, but normally. Alright, we're still only allowed to do 10 mile an hour because the back of our train is still back there in whoop whoop, going through a whole lot of points and curves. And if I jump off the train here into walk mode and turn around, you can see that these ones are going to be going through these points for quite a while. You can also see there's another red signal approaching and a hill. So that's handy stuff coming up. Let's throttle off again because we've reached our speed. Now you can also see on that screen the reason that the next signal is red is because there's a set of points against us right after it. So now that we're on the main line, we can change those points, but I'm not actually going to do it until we can see the signal, because I just want to show you what to do. Now, of course, other things with train handling is headlights, which I have not put on, so let's cycle up there and just put them on, because of course you should have headlights on your train. There we go, headlights. Very good. I think the other thing we need to do is go off for a gratuitous railfan bridge shot. It seems necessary to me, so let's pop down here onto this rock and turn to face the bridge, and we'll end up in the water, but that's okay. You'll notice our speed has now allowing us up to 30, so we can start to accelerate some more. And naturally, because this looks good, we need to do this. Xbox key, Y key, screenshots. Nice. Now you notice I didn't just notch straight up to 8 straight away. Passenger trains, that's not unusual, but in freight trains it's not done because you will break couplers. Alright, now let's go back to the cab. Zoom in again, we can see that signal up ahead. So if I set the points so that they are facing left or in the reverse position, you can see that signal's now gone green. So I face them the other way, it'll go red again, and this way it's green. There is a 15-mile-an-hour limit through the points, I believe. Actually, it disappeared, so maybe not. So we'll continue accelerating for the moment. I can see there's a 20-mile-an-hour zone coming up, though. So we'll deal with that shortly. We've got a road crossing coming up, and we are in an American locomotive. We missed one behind us, but roll 14L. Long. Long. Short. Long. Now you can see that 20 is coming up. You can also see we're approaching 30 mile an hour, so I'm going to throttle off now, and I'm going to cycle back down to the air brake, and I'm going to do a very brief application in the initial, and then I'm going to release it, because we're also coming onto a hill, so we should slow down to 20 mile an hour anyway. It should be fine. So I'll go back to throttling, just in the trust that gravity will do its thing and we'll reach 20 mile an hour before we hit that sign. The sign applies from the front of your train when it is increasing, and from the back of your train when it's increasing. And there we go, we did make it down, so we can throttle on again now. As we climb up this hill through the picturesque coal country valley following the river. There's some whistle boards. We've probably got another road or something coming up in front of us shortly. Now that blue bar down on the right hand side, you can see that's dropping. That's indicating what your speed's going to be. And you can see it's now, I've put it up another notch, so it's now holding. I'm going to put it up another one because we're starting to climb the hill. And what I want to do is get back up to about 20 and start maintaining that speed. So we'll wait and see what 3 does. If 3 is not enough, we'll go up to 4. Looks like 3 is not enough, so we'll go up to 4. There's the road that we were talking about. Four's getting us a bit more speed, so we'll hold 4 for the moment. The back of our train's coming onto the hill now. We probably don't need to work too hard though, because it's an empty train. Doesn't have a load at this moment. We're going to continue this part of the tutorial up and over the hump of the hill. And we can see there's another speed coming up for 25 miles an hour. And that will apply after the back of our train reaches that point. So notch 4 is handily getting us up towards the speed limit. You don't need to be at it. You should be under it. So I'm pretty happy with 18, that's fine. Watch our train go past for a bit. Notice we have gotten up to 19 now, so we'll just keep an eye on that. The front of the train is passing the 25 mile sign, and we've got a 31 coming up, but we cannot increase speed yet because the back of our train has to pass that sign. So if I go wandering up here, we should actually find this sign along here somewhere. Might be on the other side of the train though, but I would hope it was on this side. Maybe not. It might have been on the other side. Let's have a look over this side, because we should see the other one coming up for 30. We have gone up to 25 now, so the back of our train has passed that sign, which means it probably was on this side. Let's go back up to the train. And we are now allowed to do 30, so I've gone up to notch 6 to accelerate a bit more. And that's taking us towards the speed limit very, very quickly. The other thing that's coming very, very quickly is we're about to top the crest of the hill, so I'm going to start throttling back. And I'm going to take it right back to about 2. Because I don't really care if it starts slowing down. Because we're about to go over a hill. Now, in a real life situation, you would also do this. You would do a brake application and release. You'd actually wait a little bit longer than that because you'd want to feel it actually apply. The idea is to prove your air brakes before you need them. Now, because I can see the downhill is now coming, I'm going to throttle off, and I'm going to prepare by going into dynamic brakes, because in a real train you'd have to sit in this position in what's called setup for at least 10 seconds before you put the dynamic brakes on. And I'm going to start going on to the dynamics now. We've got a green signal. I can see my speed starting to creep up, so I'll go up to 2 on the dynamics. It's still creeping up. No, yes, it's still creeping up, so I'll go to 3. You can think of the dynamics as sort of like a reverse throttle, if you like. It's having sort of the same effect, but backwards. Now I can see we've got a 15 coming, so I'm actually going to apply the air brakes now to slow down for that, because the dynamics aren't going to slow me down that quick. Remember, air brakes take a while to react, so put them on early and get them off before you get to the speed that you want. There we go, I've put them off at about 18 mile an hour, and we should settle now at about 15. And I can use dynamics to, use dynamics, cycle to dynamics with the Y, and keep our speed under control as we come into this 15 zone. There we go. Our speed is heading towards 15 now, so we'll be fine for the trestle. It's coming up. There's the 15 marker, and you'll notice it'll apply straight away. There it goes. It's for the dangerous bridge ahead. So naturally enough, we should do the gratuitous bridge shot, and I went the wrong way, but that's okay, because we'll go over here and completely screw it up and not be able to see our train. So we'll just pop back to the train and we'll do that again. There we go. Beautiful shot. Look at that. Perfect. There we go. Let's just say I meant to do that. That's fine. Alright, let's attach back to the train. Now we've attached to the nearest carriage, you might notice, rather than the train itself. But it knows that we're connected to a locomotive, so we can still drive. And it did that because when I pressed the left bumper to return to my train, it happened to be quite close to the carriage, so it just selected the carriage, because that's what it does. We are holding our speed. The rear of our train should get past that 20 sign in a moment, and then we can let it speed up a little bit. Because we know there's a speed increase coming, we'll reduce our dynamics and let it start drifting upwards. You can also see we're coming to the bottom of the hill. Once we get down to the bottom of the hill, at that next signal, I'll actually stop the train just to show you how to stop a train with the air brake. And then we can leave it there. So the 20 zone has now appeared, so I will reduce the dynamics again. and we'll let the train drift upwards towards 20 mile an hour. Once we get to 19, I will go back to notch 4 in dynamics, just to keep us under control as we finalise the descent from the hill. That's holding quite nicely. The front of our train is now coming off the hill into a flatter area, but the rear of our train will still be coming down the hill. So if I was to release the dynamics now, we would speed up too quickly, but I can reduce them. See, Trainz definitely actually has physics. Not a lot, but some. So things like hills do make a difference. We can get rid of the dynamic brakes now, and we can X back to the throttle because we're allowed to increase to 30 mile an hour soon. So we'll just let that sit now. And it looks like we will actually have to start putting on some speed, so we will. Come back onto 1, and then 2. Remember, gently does it with the notches on the diesel. You don't want to pull too hard because the game doesn't simulate it, but it will. In real life, you break couplers, and you don't really want to be doing that. We see there's a 30 zone coming up on the track graph there. But we're actually going to stop at the next signal, so I'm going to throttle off, and I'm going to switch back to the train brake, and I'm going to do an initial application here. And you can see that's having a good effect. I'll do another application to complete it and bring us to a halt. So you can see that's just 2 small applications of the air brake, and it doesn't take much to stop you, it really doesn't. Now, of course, if you're on a longer, heavier train, then it will, and you'll have to wait a bit longer. But you still may not do more than a 20% application, because that's usually all you really need to stop the train. It just takes a while. Right, that's been it for handling a diesel train with the controls, and we'll do the same thing with a steam train up next. This time round, we're going to use this Chesapeake and Ohio steam engine, the Kanawha locomotive, to learn how to drive a steam engine. Now, notice you've got some quite different controls here. We have got the train brake, which is currently fully applied, so the Y key takes you there. We've got a loco brake, which is the independent or straight brake on the locomotive only, which is now fully released, and you apply just like the diesels with the right trigger and release with the right bumper. Same with the train brake. And that's it for the brakes. You'll notice there's no dynamics, so if I release that a little bit, and what you would normally actually do is you would sit on your loco brake fully applied, and you would release your train brake, because it takes the compressor on a steam engine quite a while to pump up the train. You can see that's happening now. The equalizing reservoir is slowly climbing, and the train brake pipe is slowly climbing, and they will both come up to about looks like this one's set to 70 psi, so that's where we're going to head. Alright, the next control is the regulator. You can think of that like the throttle. So if we pop into the cab, the regulator is that quadrant lever in front of us, so if we increase that, you can see it's pulled out towards us and back again. The next one is the cutoff, which is currently in mid-gear, so you can think of the cutoff, or reverser as it's usually called, and it might also be called the Johnson, believe it or not, thanks to the Johnson bar. And this thing is basically how much power you're getting versus how efficient you are in either of the directions, forwards or reverse. So I can start putting the cutoff towards forwards. Notice it's turning that little wheel in front of us there. Interesting that we're moving with the loco brake off and the loco brake on and the regulator at 0, isn't it? That really shouldn't happen, but that's okay. This is an arcade-style simulator, not a train simulator. Now I can, of course, go back in the other direction, of course, and this is negative, and this means we're going to go backwards. It's curious to see if it actually does. Interestingly, it doesn't. Okay, so when you're starting out, you need to have a high cutoff in the direction that you want to go. Oh, wait, there's 2 more controls. Coal and water. So you can see right now there's an awful lot of coal in there. It's basically, Firebox is basically full, which is not ideal, but that's okay. If you increase the amount of coal going in, this one's got a steam stoker by the sounds of it. So you can go up to, right up to 100%, but we certainly don't want to do that at the moment because we don't need it, because there's plenty of coal in there. And if I X again, we've got water level as well, so we can put water in. You want to maintain generally about half a glass of water, so about where this is probably about right. And you notice the coal level is going up now, or the fire level is going up anyway. So if I cycle back to, actually I just want to go to cutoff again. So we're going to set a cutoff. We want to start moving forwards, so we're going to set a fairly high cutoff. We're going to go right out to the maximum, and that means we're going to apply all the power, but we're not efficient on steam. We'll be very inefficient on steam. And we will now press and hold the X so it releases the brakes, and I'll give it a little bit of regulator. In reality, you'd give it a bit and then pull it back, and then give it a little bit, let the steam chest build up, and then pull it back. This train doesn't really do that. It's not really simulated, so you don't have to, because there is no wheel slip. So now that we're moving, we can go to the cutoff and we can bring that back. So let's bring that back to about, 52 will be fine. And we'll just leave that there for the moment. Let's start putting some coal in because we're going to start using it. And let's start putting a little bit of water in because we're going to be using it as well, just to maintain our levels. Let's start to bring our regulator up because we're allowed to do 40 mile an hour. I have no idea where this route's going to take us at the moment. I'm just letting it be. I have green signals, so I don't care. Now that we've got some good speed going, I'm going to bring my cutoff back again, and then I'm going to increase my regulator again. There's 2 schools of thought. You can either drive on the regulator or you can drive on the cutoff. So some drivers will put the regulator to the roof at 100% and use the cutoff to actually control their speed, or the reverser. That's not all that common though, and generally you use a combination of both. So we'll come back now down to 30%. That's probably good enough. And we'll keep an eye on our water consumption because it's starting to use some water. So let's pop that back up to 20 for another one. Coal still seems to be quite fine. Now the fire indicator is going quite high, so we'll start using coal, but we're keeping up at the moment. So let's put our regulator up a bit more. Let's, didn't want to hop off then. I wanted to do that and have a look at the outside. So we are coming up to our speed limit. We can watch our train go by. It's only a little shorty. Let's go back up to the engine. You move forwards and backwards in a train, I don't know if I've told you this, by using the up and down on the left stick. And that moves you forwards and backwards. Alright, we are past approaching our speed limit, so we can bring our regulator down. Now I have noticed that our water levels maintain pretty steady, but our coal level hasn't really. So we should probably do something about that. So I'll X up to coal, I'll increase that to 20. Water's going to be okay because we're slowing down now. We're not using as much regulator. We are slowing down a bit too much, so let's bring that back up a bit. Felt like we were flat, but obviously not. They have simulated the motion quite nicely on this. Does look pretty good. Yes, I know my head's in the middle of it. Alright, so let's say we want to handle a hill. Now I know we haven't got one here, but let's say we did. What would you do? Well, you're going to need more power. So you bring your cutoff up, 45, maybe 50, and that'll give you a whole lot more power and you'll be accelerating. But bear in mind you also use more water and more steam. So when you do that, you probably need to bring your coal up and you probably need to bring your water injector up. Now, neither of these things are particularly real indicators of what's going on here because injectors are normally on or off. They're not variable, really. You kind of can finesse them a little bit, but not really. Now, we're going quite a bit too quick, so we'll slow back down. We'll bring our regulator back down to 10%. We'll bring our cutoff back down to the 30 because we're not going up a hill. And let's say we want to stop the train, so we'll bring the... Bring the regulator back down to 0. I cycle back down there. And we're going to be not using much coal now, but let's get the brakes happening. So let's get some braking on because we do want to stop the train. And then we'll go back up and we will reduce our coal intake. Our water will leave where it is for the moment, but once that starts going up, we'll bring that down too. So you can see the train speed is dropping. I haven't applied much brake. You see that's at 20%. That's enough. That's fine. So that's taken the equalising reservoir down to 60 psi. That's a 30-pound brake application in the brake cylinders. That's plenty to stop your train. Takes a little while, but it's plenty, and it's gentle and everything. You see our fire level is dropping in the firebox there on the fire indicator, just to the right of the water. And our water's stopped being consumed quite as fast as well, and we're also keeping up with the coal, and the coal level's starting to go up. You can see there is a hill coming up, so now that we're getting that, let's actually tackle that hill, I think. So we'll bring the train to a stop. And now we want to start it again. So back to regulator, back to full cutoff. Sorry, back to cutoff, full cutoff. And then to regulator, we'll release the train brake by holding X and give it some steam, and off we go. You don't have to worry about cylinder cocks or anything else like that. It just happens. Once we get up to about 10 mile an hour, we'll cycle back, we'll bring the cutoff back, bit more, and now we can cycle back to the regulator with the X key again, bring our regulator back up. Let's go and give ourselves some more coal, let's give ourselves some more water, bring the regulator up again. Doing fine here, so we will bring the cutoff back to 45. We'll hold at 45 for a while until we speed up some more. Coal looks like it's sitting still, which is fine. Water's sitting still, so we're using it at the same rate we're putting it in, basically. Coal looks like it's dropping a little bit, so let's cycle back to coal and put that up another notch. We are on the flat, but I want to keep accelerating, so I'll leave the cutoff where it is for the moment, or the reverser. Engine thrashing? I don't think so. This is a perfectly acceptable place to be. Thank you, game. I think what it wants me to do is bring the cutoff back a bit, but I didn't really want to do that. Coal is sort of holding still and it's dropping, so let's increase our coal. Water's holding fine, so we'll leave that where it is. And we're going to start climbing the hill in a moment, so we'll keep our speed increasing. Look out, FedEx truck. Don't be a hero. It's not much of a hill though. So if you were going up a real hill, you would start to increase your cutoff. But it's not much of a hill, so I don't really need to very much. Speed's holding. Yep, we're speeding. Oh no! Whatever will we do? Well, that's pretty easy, really. We cycle to the regulator, and we reduce that. Almost down to 0, and then we apply a bit of train brake. And the combination of gravity and the air brake and the fact that we're not steaming very hard will reduce our speed. Alright, so let's come off the air brake now because we're approaching the speed we want, and it will take a little while for the air brake to release. And we are going up a steeper hill now, so let's increase our cutoff to 45. Let's increase our regulator again to try and hold this speed. So we'll bring that up back up to about 60% where we were. Our coal level's still dropping quite dramatically, so let's cycle back and bring coal up quite a bit. Water's fine. Water's probably too much. And we are starting to speed again, but we've got a bigger hill coming up, so this is called getting a run up, and no one's watching. So we'll let things keep accelerating. We'll sit there on 45 for the moment. I love that it keeps saying engine thrashing, because no, it's not. This is quite normal. Because this is how you get up hills. It probably wants me to keep a low cutoff all the time, but that doesn't work. Like you can see that we are starting to drop speed, so let's give it a bit more regulator. But the other thing I'm going to do is give it a bit more cutoff. Now coal level stabilised for a little while, but is now dropping again because we're using a lot of steam to get up this hill. So we're now holding speed pretty well. Maybe even starting to increase a little bit. So I'm happy with this. So actually it shows that our fire's not terribly high. I reckon our fire would be a roaring volcano at this moment. But you know, it is a arcade train simulator. In fact, there actually isn't a good train simulator for Steam. There's one that's a little bit promising around the corner. If they ever stop fiddling with it, I'm getting vaguely convinced that they've actually made it for themselves and it works fine for them, so they've forgotten about building the rest of it. But that's okay. Surprised we don't have to slow down for this corner, but there you go. Alright, we've reached the flat bit, so we can not only reduce our regulator, but we can also reduce our cutoff. And you'll notice our coal's starting to catch up again. Water's still staying up there. It's fine. There we go. Let's say we want to bring the thing to a stop then. So we will reduce our regulator and we will apply the train brake. And we'll just give it a small brake, just like we did before. And we'll let that come to a stop. You can keep a little bit of regulator on while you're braking if you want to. It helps stop the steam engine from stalling out and wheel slipping with all sort of stuck. Once we come to a stop, we will cycle back to the cutoff and we'll bring that to mid-gear. There we go. Bring that back to mid-gear and we will... Well, we can leave our coal up for the moment because it needs to build back up again. But the reality is your fireman's going to pretty much stop stoking and you're going to reduce your water because you're not really using it anymore. And you could sit there on the train brake, but what would be more likely in my experience is that you would fully apply your independent brake to hold the train, and then you would actually release your train brake. And the carriages would go back on their springs. There you go. You can hear the head pump going to release the brake back there. Oh, we've got a hill start. What tutorial would be complete without a hill start? Magnificent. Okay, here we go. Let's go to full cutoff. So you want to go all the way up to 75. And in preparation, let's just increase our coal a little bit. And now we're going to get onto the regulator. We're going to get a little bit. We'll let our steam chest pressure build up. And then we will cycle to the loco brake and we will release it a little bit at a time. There we go. It's happening. It's happening. Good. Back to the regulator. Increase. Increase. We're getting away with this. Increase. So in reality, you'd be going increase, decrease, let the steam chest pressure drop, increase, because you're going to start slipping basically. But this thing doesn't really simulate hills, so, you know, we're fine. There we go. Off we go again. All right, we'll leave the tutorial there as we gradually bring this thing back up to speed. It will take a little while, and that's fine. So keep an eye on your coal level, keep an eye on your water level. Less cutoff, don't go less than 30, but less cutoff is more efficient. More cutoff is more powerful. More efficient uses less water and coal. More powerful uses more water and coal. So you want to sit down the efficient end of the scale if you can. I just realized that's backwards on the camera, so it's 30 is more efficient, 75 more power, less efficient. All right, that's it for the steam tutorial. Good luck with it, and I hope things go well for you. Right now I want to talk about one of the incongruities in the control system for trains. We are driving a British Rail Class 08. The British Rail Class 08 has 3 throttle notches. Not really notches though, but let's just hop into the cab and have a look at what I'm talking about. So if we have a look down at the controller there, I'll try and zoom in a little bit on it, you can see 3 markings on there. So if I use my, let's go back to my throttle and I go notch 1, notch 2, notch 3, that's full power. Well, actually it's jumped up to 4, but there's 3 and then there seems to be this extra notch. It's all around, and then there's 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. None of those extra notches really do anything. It's trying to overcome its own brakes right now and it can't. It's probably going to derail soon if I keep doing that. So it's just a bit interesting because the control system always has 8 notches. Now, the other thing you'll notice is the dynamic brake. And if I change to the dynamic brake with the Y key, it throttles things up. But this train, as we know, doesn't actually have dynamic brakes. So there is a bit of an incongruity there. The player, I guess, is supposed to know what their train can actually do. I did find in playing the scenario in the dockyards that the notches above notch 3 actually did give it more power, which I don't think they should because they don't exist, but that's okay. So the notching is more about how much power you're applying than how many notches are really there on the locomotive. So we're gonna... Oops, I just decoupled the train, I think. I think I just did the wrong thing. I did. Right. Now let's go back into decouple mode again. Come on. Right. I did, in fact, decouple the train. Then did the wrong thing, pressed the left button to move down the train, got that wrong. Decouple mode. Let's see if I can get it right this time. Oh, it looks like I've decoupled the next carriage as well, so we'll couple that one up again. Hopefully I coupled that rather than uncoupling that, but let's have a look. No, I think I uncoupled it. Okay. I did. So I want to couple it. Come on. Couple it. Right. I'm good at this, honest. So the next one, I've managed to decouple that as well. So let's... Right, now I've recoupled the whole train. That's what we need. Good. So let's go back into decouple mode and we should see a whole train of red couplers. Lovely. Okay, now let's move down the train using the left stick. And we want to be at 90 degrees to the car. We want to uncouple, and then we press uncouple, which is D-pad right. Got it. Excellent. And we're starting to roll away because clearly the only thing that had brakes on it was the car's fan. Oh, fine. I am recording this little section for a tutorial on coupling. Now, what are our points set as? So we're going into the siding or the main. So we want to go up there into the siding, so all good. So we can release the brakes and get her rumbling into the siding. Because basically we just leave the guards van sitting there on the main. Let's make sure we're leaving it behind. We are. Good. We'll draw the train into the siding, dump the vans, and then we'll come back. We can see there's some smoking grading equipment up there by the looks of it. Get back off the deuce now so we don't go too fast. It's good to see the little animated bits of stuff happening. So that's a log loader, that one over there. Get ready to brake because we're not far off there, but we're also not going very fast. And we may as well set those points while we're here. So just use D-pad right to do that. And we should probably think about stopping this thing. Then we get to go into uncouple mode again. Yay! My favourite. Do you know, I reckon that's close enough. Alright, back into uncouple mode, and we want to dump those vans off. So we will use the little radial menu and move down the train. Now we've got our van, so that's the last one. That's the second one, and we want to uncouple that one. Dunk. Got it right! Yay! Alright, let's drive forward then. Brakes off. Throttle on. We've already set the points. And we are indeed leaving the vans behind. Perfect. Good work. We'll take the train forward. And then we'll go back and get our guards van. There's that bloke doing his thing again. Oh no! Facepalm. Another animated windmill up there. I think it needs another one of those, don't you? Yes, definitely. Not that one. That one. Now you can either drop off the train and go and set those points by hovering over them, or you can just wait till you stop in reverse direction and set them when you start moving. Because once the game knows which way you're going, you can just use set the points from the D-pad and it works. Bit more because it's a bit steep here. It's going to be a little bit hard to get going again too, but we'll do it. Alright, so let's go and get the reverser.
Now reverse back and collect the guard van.
And what you would normally do at this point is go onto the loco brake, fully apply the loco brake, fully release the train brake, and then you start throttling up. And once you hear it powering, you then go back and slowly release the loco brake. And she should start to move without rolling forwards. Just thinking about it. I reckon we might need another notch. There it goes. Now we can release the loco brake. And remember, we've got to change those points. So there we go, that's done. I think I'd already done it, but or it's done it for me, one or the other. Not loco brake. What am I doing? Throttle, more throttle, more throttle. That looks cool too, so we're going to do that as well. I just like the way it looks. I can't help it. It's interesting now that we've got to Australia, 5 people have gone, nah, that's enough. There's 10 minutes left in this stream because I have to change over. So we won't get this finished today, but we'll at least get onwards again from this station. Now we probably have to change those points behind us as well, unless it's already done it. There we go. Pete says it looks good. I reckon so. Don't want to hit the guards van too hard. Been there, done that. Not doing it again. You can derail trains in Trainz. Automatic couplers, of course, which is good. 4 miles an hour is a good coupling speed. Right, there we
You're
go.
all over this train driving gig, mate. Throttle up and head on through to our next delivery.
Mindly Ticket Trombone, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. You've appeared with about 9 minutes and 30 seconds left. But that's okay. We're heading off to Tostery. Having just left 2 vans here. Right now we're in the sandbox mode for Trainz Simulator World Tour on the Xbox. So just as a recap, if I press the squares to the left of the Xbox, I can change sessions if I want to. So I'll quick change, and you can choose from the guided ones, which is training day continues, etc., all the way through to the ones I haven't unlocked yet, and then to our sandbox session. So I've jumped into the sandbox session for Coal Country, and we've loaded that up. And the young man's yacked at us for a bit, telling us what to do. Now, as usual in here, you can dive in and get onto a train. So let's just do that. Let's select that one. And you can drive pretty much any train you want for the most part. I think that didn't actually select that then. Let's just pick that again. There we go. So we've selected it this time. So let's just release the brakes and get this one moving, because we can. Now, of course, we can jump off that one, even though it's now moving. And we can come over here and get onto the little switcher, and it's attached to that one. And we can now, can't see it because it's in a shed, but we can now release the brakes on that one and start that one moving as well. And if you want some more mayhem, you can jump off that one. Oh, we weren't quite on the switcher. Okay, let's jump onto the switcher. It goes to the nearest one. So now we're on the switcher. Let's release the brakes on that one. And some more mayhem is now engaged. So you can set off as many trains as you want moving. The little switcher and that one are going on. And these are all heading off to more or less a collision course. But that's okay, because that's what sandbox mode is all about. You can engage your inner Gomez Adams, or you can just run trains realistically if you wish. Oh, they've merged with each other. There we go. There's our derailment. Crunch, 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 crunch. A bit more crunch. But while we're leaving Gomez Adams to his thing up there, if you zoom out and you can see those ones moving, you can actually use the left and right bumper to cycle round other trains that are in the area. So let's have a look at this one. So we'll zoom back in. We've highlighted this CXX40 out here at Parker. We're now on that one. It doesn't actually matter if you have a SPAD, because that's one of the AIs down the other end, the ones that I've set. Well, they're not AIs, I've set them moving. So we can set this one moving too if we want to. This is going to take off through the loader up there. I have a faint suspicion it's the wrong way around for the loader, because if we jump off... Oh no, we can get through there. So we can come and set these points just to make sure they're that way, which they are. And just quickly check our others. Oh, fine, there's no other points between us and them. So we should probably slow this down a bit. Cycle down to the brake. You know, I didn't really want to go into emergency then. I held the Y key. That was unfortunate. Okay. Off we go again. Because in Sandbox you can of course load cars if you want to, but you'll have to take them through slowly, as you would expect. So you can do everything that you can do in the guided sessions. You can load stuff, you can run around, you can do things. You can pretty much do whatever you want. And just cruise around. Do your thing. Have fun. Send trains wherever you want. And that is pretty much sandbox mode. Was that a bloke having a smoke? It was a bloke having a smoke. Well, how about that? So we'll just take this through here and load it up, and that will complete our tutorial on sandbox mode, because that really is all there is to it. You can Gomez Adams stuff like I was at the other end of the route, or you can drive things seriously like I am at the moment, and you can run as many trains as you want. I don't know if there's any memory limitations or anything to that, but I've flicked around the map and I've started lots of stuff. There isn't any way to spawn any trains that aren't already here. So if they're here, you can have them. And if they're not, you can't. Now you can join trains together. I have done a bit of that. Most things seem to be fine to be joined together. And they just operate as a train, as you'd expect. So everything's pretty much in set formations. There is rolling stock around the place that you can collect. You could make yourself a super train, I guess. You could roll through the whole map and find out how many carriages you can get until your Xbox actually catches fire. There we go. Oops, didn't mean to do that. We've loaded that up. Let's just watch this train over the top of the little tractor poo mountains that we have here. Because if you didn't know, those little round bales you see everywhere on farms are in fact tractor poo. Alright, so that is all loaded and is heading off on its way happily. We'll ramp that up to notch 8 and we will leave sandbox mode there. So we'll just recap and zoom out again and use the right and left to pick trains that are around. You can see what's moving, and you can, if you zoom in, you can see what's still moving, and just have fun with your sandbox and enjoy yourself. There are no constraints. The only thing you might find is signals. Let's slow this one down. So you can see that there actually is a red signal up in front of us. So we'll just pop a little bit of brake on and slow him down. And let's detach from the train and let's go up and find out what's going on with this signal. Why is there a red signal up here? Let's release that train brake now that it's slowed down, or is still slowing down. Ah, that's why there's a red signal. Okay, you'll see it up on the bridge here that it's red. So all you got to do is pop down and just check what the route's set for. There we go. We've now got a path through all the way through those, so that red signal should no longer be red. No, it still is. We've probably got something else to do then. Let's check this one as well. Right. Now that signal will be, wait for it, green! Okay, that's what you've got to do to manage things in Sandbox, because there's no one helping you. It's just you. Here comes our train down here again. Still speeding. Doesn't care if you speed in Sandbox, you can go as fast as you want. Or as fast as you can, anyway. So that's about it. You just do what you want. Set whatever path you want so that the signals go green. If you drive through a red signal, all it does is say that you have spattered. But of course, if that signal's protecting points like this one was, you will derail on the points if they're set against you. Alright, that's it for Sandbox mode. Righto then, folks. That's it for all of the tutorial components for Trainz Simulator World Tour on Xbox. I keep having to get that right because there's so many different versions of Trainz. Anyway, Trainz Simulator World Tour on Xbox. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It was a little bit of a long one, but I've set it up with chapters so that you can flick around to the things that you most need to see as we come past with the steam engine again. The big American canoa from the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway. Railroad, sorry, America. Railroad. They do have some railways as well, but this isn't one of them. Anyway, that's it for now. If you've got any questions, chuck them down below. I'll see what I can do to help you out. Do also join the N3V Discord because they have quite an active community that are very good at helping people. Alrighty, enjoy yourselves, have fun, folks, and we shall see you later. Enjoy the game. Enjoy this new train simulator that's now out on Xbox. Bye.
We played a game.